All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 169 tonight. We're going to be talking about science news, and we're going to be discussing all the recent psychedelic research articles that have come out and all the updates and news articles, surrounding all that kind of stuff. Again, I just set up a new Patreon, a bunch of tiers, so head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Mind Escape Podcast. We've got, 5 new tiers. 6 new tiers? 5 new tiers? Yep. For $2 a month, you'll get exclusive guest episodes and segments. Lots of great stuff on there. We've got an hour-long one with Randall Carlson. We've got an hour-long one with Dr. Gregory Little, a slideshow, one with on ancient mounds, Native American mounds. We have one with Laird Scranton, and we also have an hour-long one with Sean Cahill, so go check those out. Only $2 a month. I mean,
lots of juicy tidbits.
Let's face it, you're getting some sweet knowledge for not that much, okay?
Absolutely.
All right. And then, for $5, you can become an escapee. Again, these are correlated to our Discord, so if you have not checked out our Discord, head on over to there and participate, and we'll give you a nice title depending on what tier you're at. So I'm not going to go through them all. You can see them there, or if you're listening, head on over to our Patreon and check out our new tiers. We do still have t-shirts available as well. They are black t-shirts with our logo on the front. I like it a lot. I think it looks...
Got it on right there, baby.
I do have it on. They can't see it, but I do have it on. It's quality shirt. I mean, it's a thick shirt, right? Like the materials, it's not some cheap, going to get a hole in it in a couple weeks. It's I don't know what it is, but it's cotton.
It'll last the test of time.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So if you're interested in a t-shirt, send me an email, go to our website, and head on over to contact us, and then send me an email. We'll figure that out for you. And we are going to go live with Indra's Web here shortly. Let me pull it up here. Go to indrasweb.org and sign up to get an alert when the app goes live, which is going to be soon. I don't know, in the next week it'll probably go live, and I'll be working on that pretty hard over the holidays, so head on over there. Indra's Web, if you don't know, is an app that we created for rational discourse surrounding all the topics we discuss, whether it be, ancient civilizations or megalithic structures, UFOs, you name it. There's a lot of weird fringe things going on in the world in terms of, like I said, like UFO stuff. There's been a lot of stuff in the news. There's been a lot of stuff in the news with, regarding ancient finds and sites and stuff. So if you have a theory or hypothesis, it's the perfect app to discuss that without any sort of riffraff. So head on over to there. And, what's going on?
Not much. What's the good word, my man?
That's pretty much it. Just laying it all out there for everybody. And if you're listening, this does have a slideshow that accompanies it. You can check out our YouTube channel if you have not already. And if you're watching live on YouTube, head on over to one of our... we're on all the podcast platforms. So if you're on Apple, please leave us a nice review and a 5-star rating. We love you for that. And we're on Spotify, whatever you have, we're on there. So, or you can just go to mindescapepodcast.com. That'll save you some time. So,
right to the source.
Right to the source. So, earlier today we did try and do an episode with Dr. David Luke, the psychedelic researcher, the connection, we were having some connection issues with him, so we're going to try and reschedule that. I don't know if it's going to be next week, but sometime soon we'll try and get that in, but let's see.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
Yeah. If you haven't checked out his stuff, he's the co-founder of the Breaking Convention, so go look that up. But what else is going on here? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Just getting ready for the holidays and doing some wrapping. All that fun preparation.
Sounds good.
I actually printed out a bunch of photos every year. It's funny, I don't use my printer until December, and then I go ballistic printing out different photos for each family member. It's a nice way to get my art out there and save a couple dollars on gifts.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and obviously your photographs are awesome. You have that nice printer. If you become a $35 patron, you can get a piece of Maurice's art once a month and become a Maurice site. Or is
Yeah.
it a Morris site? I don't know yet, but we're gonna figure that out as we go here.
If I was gonna say, if people want to go check out more of my art, you can go to Instagram, Maurice_Hogan, and any of the pictures on my feed are available for print. So head on over there after the show.
Sounds good. All right, so yeah, tonight I'm going to read off a lot of the recent news and articles, and we're going to discuss all the different research and stuff that's been going on, and so I'm going to pull up that slideshow now.
Very good, my man.
All right, hold on, let me get rid of that. All right, so yeah, psychedelics and the mind. So the first one, some of these are a couple months old. Some of them, are just from this week. So it depends. I'm going to put it after we're done going live. I'm going to put all the links down below. So if anybody's interested or wants to look further into these articles, I'll have the link down there for you. So, excuse me. Okay, so this one is, they say there was a recent study that says THC may prevent colon cancer in mice. So researchers from the University of South Carolina observed the effects of THC on mice to determine that if the compound could be used to prevent colon cancer in humans. So obviously we know with psychedelics and other medicines, they test on rats and mice first usually to get a general idea of what's going on. But this is kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, they're a mammal, but does it fully translate to the human? Yeah, for the some of that stuff does, but we got to really get into the nitty gritty human testing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's obviously differences, physiological differences, but I think that you're right. We are a mammal. They're a mammal. There's a lot of similarities as well. So it's a good, test to see what's going to happen. The team published their findings in iScience. I think that's obviously a science publication. Their research showed THC is a powerful anti-inflammatory agent. Well, no duh. Anybody that's been partaking, which has been for years. I think a lot of people that, if you live in a legal state, especially where there's dispensaries and legal dispensaries, or it's medical in your state, I think that there's a reason for that, and we're starting to see more and more of that pop up. It says THC acts on the CB2 receptors that are uniquely expressed on immune cells in the gut. They then prevent them from producing certain harmful cytokines, I believe that's how you pronounce that, secreted by them, that drives the cancer, such as interleukin 22 or IL-22. So this is saying that THC works off of one of the cannabinoid receptors, and what it does is it produces these harmful cytokines from being secreted in your body. So, and obviously that sounds like it's what feeds cancer, according to the article.
Yeah, I'm going to go out there and say I don't think that there's any cases of cancer from just smoking cannabis. I could be wrong, but I think that's out there as far as
what are you saying?
A fact that no one has ever reported getting cancer from just smoking cannabis.
I don't know. I think that you'd have to look into that. That's not something I would have said either, but you can look it up. I don't know if they've done studies. There's all sorts of studies going on. I know a lot of this research is obviously dependent on different laws, and I know that there's been a lot of researchers that have had a tough time getting approved to even do a lot of this research too. So, and we're talking about cannabis. We're not even talking about the psychedelic stuff yet. So, and not cannabis is, it's legal where I live. It's legal where you live. It's legal,
Well, it's recreationally legal where I live.
It's recreationally legally where I live too.
Yeah, it's coming. It's going to be fully legal, federally legal soon. So
you think so?
Yeah, I'm 90% sure.
This guy's got his thumb on the pulse of the market too.
I got my cannabis stocks all ready to
There
rock.
you go. So yeah, I don't know about that one. Did you look it up?
I mean, I'm looking at it. It says
I don't know if there's even a way for them to tell that, because you would have to know like the whole person's. It's almost like determinism. Like everything you've ever done could contribute to any one of these things. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it says, I mean, I'm on WebMD. It says some found evidence that ties marijuana to lung cancers, while other data shows little to no connection. I don't know.
I would assume that smoking joints with all that tar is probably not the best.
Yeah.
Of all, what versus, there used to be like a thing back in school in like health class. There was like a diagram and it showed like a water pipe or like a bong was the healthiest in terms of the ways to consume it. But
well, let me rephrase what I said. I think that THC has no link to cancer. Marijuana has like 300 and some other chemicals within it when you actually smoke the flower.
And if you're not, that's why there's dispensaries, because if you're just getting it from some random person, you don't know exactly what they've, sprayed or what they've used, I'm sure, when you look at that kind of stuff, there's obviously horror stories too, but I think that a lot of that stuff's a lot of like urban legend and myth type stuff that's gotten out of hand. But in terms of, I mean, if you watch any of these like cannabis shows like on TVs or documentaries, there are people that do weird stuff that has not been proven to be great for you. So okay, so this is moving on to the psychedelic stuff. So this article was talking about how psychedelic experiences reduce narcissism, and everybody always jokes around like, let's give, politicians should be taking, like that kind of stuff. And I think that there's probably some like truth in the sense that you don't, your ego can get so conflated, and you're trying to appease and please so many people, and then you get to a point where it's like, oh, I am just doing this for myself at some point. And I think that's why you see a lot of people saying that kind of stuff. But in terms of people that actually have narcissism, they did a study published in the Journal of Psychopharmacology that researchers found that psychedelic experiences of awe are linked to increased feelings of connectedness and empathy, which in turn is related to decreased levels of exploitative entitled narcissism. So I think that might be a specific type of narcissism too. I don't know if there's different types. I don't know enough about the psychology of narcissism to speak on that, but lowered empathy has been associated with narcissism, and researchers were interested to see how psychedelic experiences could reduce the effect of narcissism. So reading this article, I think that they found that people, it wasn't the ego death that helped people with the narcissism or like, gave people perspective. It was actually like an awe-inspiring experience, or like a, like a mind-blowing experience. You know what I'm saying? Like almost like to put you in context with the universe. Like you're nothing, in terms of the universe, kind of a thing, where I think that probably a lot of, I can't speak because I don't know, but I think a lot of narcissism is obviously ego related. And if your ego is huge.
Yeah, I think they are the center of the universe.
Right. But it's not the ego dissolution. Like you hear all these people talk about like ego death and whatever. And I don't think that that's what they're talking about here. They're talking about the fact, this other aspect of it, which is, I'm sure a lot of people have experienced in psychedelics, which is this, oh my God, that was a crazy experience kind of a thing. Researchers used the online survey platform Qualtrics to survey 414 individuals who had experience with classic serotogenic psychedelic drugs, psilocybin and LSD. It was not the ego death experiences, again, this is what I was talking about, that seemed to have a positive effect on maladaptive narcissism, but psychedelic experiences of awe or significance. So if you have an experience where it's like, it's memorable, or there's something that you like learn from it, or it's just like, again, like putting you in your place. It's almost like going swimming in an ocean, getting out there kind of far. You realize how tiny you really are compared to things.
Yeah.
Let's
There's
see.
also a connective quality as well, where you feel connected to
Right, or being
everything.
connected to something bigger. I think because if you think you're the biggest thing or the baddest thing, and then you have
Yeah,
something, oh whoa whoa whoa, you're just part of
a real Dennis Reynolds type.
yeah. The researchers hope that the first step in the future studies on the effects of, or this is the first step of the, for more studies to see the effects of psychedelics on narcissism. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I don't know if there's different types of narcissism. Maybe somebody can comment on that. But if there is, then maybe that was just one, had an effect on one of those categories, or something like that, and maybe ego death would have some sort of positive effect for some narcissist. I don't know. Just
Oh,
a
I think
thought.
it would have a great effect on most.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. This one's called My Brain on Salvia. Before we read this one, I was going back and forth with Dr. Andrew Gallimore on Twitter, and he was talking about how most people, when you smoke salvia or chew the leaves, you're experiencing salvinorin A, which is like the main alkaloid that most people know about that have experienced. But there's some study, I think, I don't know if they're going to do it or it's like being tossed around, like an extended stay, how they're talking about like extended stay DMT, that like extended stay or some sort of synthesized salvinorin B, which would last like super, super long. I can't even imagine, like we were going back and forth, like nobody said that they'd want to participate because salvia is so intense for, even in a few minutes or whatever. I can't even imagine like 3 hours. That's insane. I don't know if you could deal with that. I don't know if your brain can handle that.
Yeah.
It might break the system.
Yeah. No thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so My Brain on Salvia. So the team led by Manoj Das, I believe is how you pronounce it, a postdoctoral researcher in neuropharmacology at Johns Hopkins University, working under the guidance of veteran psychedelic scientist Roland Griffiths. The researchers from Johns Hopkins University conducted research on the effects of salvinorin A has on the brain. Salvinorin A is a psychoactive compound found in Salvia divinorum, which is, again, you used to be able to find salvia that it was legal in most states, and they would sell it at pipe stores and head shops and stuff like that. Now it's illegal, I think, in a lot of places. There's probably, I think, a few states where it's still legal or it's like a gray area, but yeah, all those videos were coming out with people doing crazy stuff after they smoke, and people were posting it on YouTube and stuff, and even
Yeah.
Hamilton Morris did a good episode on Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia on it, and they show that whole aspect of it, how that kind of stuff, like going viral with like stupid videos of yourself doing it, can have a negative effect and possibly even harm the potential for any sort of therapeutic.
You're talking about salvia, not people weren't they doing that with DMT too, or?
I mean, people do that. Yeah, there's videos on people doing that on YouTube.
I wonder how those even stay up.
Yeah, I'm fine with. Personally, I don't care whatever you want to do, but you have to look at like the policies of things, and if you're just going to be reckless about it and not, do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
we talk
yeah.
about having reverence all the time. So,
Well, I remember right when YouTube was coming out, and there was a lot of people just acting a fool on there, doing it.
yeah.
But generating views.
Look, at the end of the day, again, I don't really care what people do, but you have to be smart about stuff. And if there's something in place and you're just going to be an idiot about it, that's a whole different story. I think that you see a lot of younger people doing stuff that they probably regret later on, but I mean, it is what it is. Let's see here. Okay, so researchers found that a significant decrease in the synchrony of the default mode network while subjects were in the fMRI under the effects of salvinorin A. So if you don't know what the default mode network is, it's, we've talked about it many times on the podcast. You can look it up too. It's basically your like normal. It's like how you break things down in your mind. It's literally what it sounds like. It's what you default to is consciousness. The effects of salvinorin A on the default mode network came as a surprise, since This also happens under the effects of traditional psychedelics like psilocybin, DMT, LSD, and even cannabis. There was also, I think, a recent-ish article about how cannabis might not have something about the effects of the default mode network with cannabis. I'd have to look up that article. I forget exactly what the end result it was with that, but I should have added it in here. Most traditional psychedelics act on the serotonin receptors, but salvinorin A acts on the kappa opioid receptor. Salvinorin A is a very unique kappa opioid agonist. Fred Barrett, who is a neuroscientist at Johns Hopkins, says this calls into question if the default mode network is the mechanism behind the traditional psychedelic experiences. This is also unusual given how different Salvia is, like their experiences are from other traditional psychedelics. So when you get into that default mode network, they're saying that they think that might be the mechanism behind how, these psychedelics affect you, but maybe it's not now, because if it's acting on the kappa opioid receptor, I mean, that's a whole different thing than the 5-HT2A receptor, which is what most psychedelics play off of. So, this is also unusual given how different the experiences are from traditional psychedelics. If it does not have similar effects on the default mode network and the experience is different, it acts on a different receptor. Therefore, it must be another mechanism behind the psychedelic experience. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I forget. Did you ever try Salvia?
The first Bonnaroo we ever went to. Again, I don't even know how potent the stuff was, but it was the 5-minute.
The one me, you, and Rob went to.
Yeah. It was a 5-minute liftoff with a real paranoia.
You didn't do that with me, though.
aftertaste.
You must have did it someone else. I don't remember that. I mean, all I remember is it being like 110 degrees and 100% humidity.
It was not enjoyable, ladies and gentlemen.
We drank like 5 cases of water in like 2 days.
Yeah. That Bonnaroo that I went to, I vowed to never go back again. And then the band Fish played, and the lead guitarist in my band bought the whole band Bonnaroo tickets, so I wasn't going to be like, no, I'm not going.
Oh, the second time you went?
The second time I went, the bottom line is it was just as miserable. It's too hot to enjoy anything. Again, there's so many bands. You're like, oh, I'm going to go see them and this and that. And then when you get there, you're just it's a farm. There's no shade.
Right.
It's 100 degrees. It's in Tennessee in June, and it's just not a good time. So this is I don't know if they're going to be having concerts anymore, but people, do not go to Bonnaroo.
I mean, it's kind of bunk now, right? Anyways, it's all like popular acts. It's not what it used to be. I think Fish played there a couple years ago, but it was almost like, why are they even doing that?
Well, it was kind of cool because it was a big amalgamation of music. Like I saw Erykah Badu, Snoop Dogg, and then Fish.
Yeah,
all
that's
on the same
cool.
stage.
Look, I like a collective of music too. I'm just saying, like back in the day, though. I mean, all the jam you think, you name a jam band and they were playing there.
Yeah.
And actually, the weird thing is that's when Fish was on a break and Trey was playing with Dave Matthews Band and Tim Reynolds, right?
Yeah.
Dave and Friends or whatever they were called.
Yeah, I actually went to Chicago and saw those guys. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, and I even like Trey's solo band a lot as well. But yeah, that Bonnaroo that we went to was sick in terms of acts. There was Ween was there.
I think Radiohead was there.
String Cheese Incident. Who else? There's a lot of people. I mean, the Wilco, I'm pretty sure.
Dude, I
You
look
didn't
back
see
and
that, though.
No, I didn't see
My
any of
Morning
these bands.
Jacket.
Oh, it makes me sick to look back at the bands that we could have saw. But again, it was so hot that you're literally you're trying to stay alive.
That was
let
what
alone go see music. You're just trying to stay alive.
I think that was the Grateful Dead. I don't remember. Was it Warren Haynes or Jimmy Herring? I can't remember. But I remember it being rainy and people were like mosh pitting and stuff.
Yeah. Remember we saw that one guy we called him Moses. He was leading people.
Yeah. This guy's parting the seas out in the middle of the crowd. That was pretty funny, actually.
Yeah. Well, I think we saw Primus. That was pretty cool.
Primus was good. Yeah. Yeah, that was cool. I liked that one a lot. Umphreys played till like 5 o'clock in the morning one night, and Vita Blue played a pretty sick show.
Yeah, but again, I think there was the new deal. There's all these bands. I look back, I go, wow, I love that kind of music, and I just never, I didn't have the energy for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was our first Bonnaroo too, 4.5 Fingers.
And it was our last.
We went to the Fish It Festival that year though too.
So much more enjoyable.
Yeah,
The
that was-
temperatures were perfect.
That
and
was
it's
an
just-
amazing experience. The people, everything was cool. There wasn't any bunk stuff out there like you saw at Bonnaroo.
Yeah, that's the other interesting thing. Like if you go to a music festival, like a fish festival, everybody's there to see one band, so there is some kind of collective energy going. Again, there's turds that go see Fish, but for the most part, everybody's, you know, if you go to Bonnaroo now, there's metal bands, there's rap, there's all kinds of stuff. So it's like all these different groups of people coming together, and you know, there's
Which is
these
awesome
kinda
though too. I
altercation.
mean, like in a way, that aspect of it I like though too. Now, I just don't like a lot of the more recent bands, I guess, is my thing. Like you and I were talking about this music's really kind of taken a tumble recently.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I find these bands. There's this one band called the War on Drugs, and I'm like, oh, these guys are new, and then I look them up, and it's like, no, this is an older band. You just haven't found them till
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, that
So-
makes sense. All right, so back to psychedelic news. Oh, so just I also wanted to mention too. So I explain it more clearly with the default mode network. It is a network of interacting brain regions that is active when a person is not focused on the outside world, and that's what they were measuring in the fMRI. So for anybody that was interested in that, again, you can look up default mode network. It's a pretty interesting concept. Okay, so this article was about like making bad trips good. So researchers studied the stories and in-depth qualitative interviews of 50 Norwegian psychedelic users. Almost all of the participants have had bad trips or scary experiences while on psychedelics. The elements of these stories they had ego dissolution, loss of self, or feeling of going crazy. So some of the participants rejected the term bad trip as they felt like these bad experiences had beneficial results and deep existential life altering insights. So this is something we've talked about a lot before, right? Like on other episodes. We talked about how in my experiences, bad trips are just like you having to deal with your own stuff that you haven't been dealing with. You've put it on a shelf, or you've just decided not to face anything or whatever. And then the psychedelic comes in and acts, they used to call it psychomimetics because it's like reflective of what's going on, within you, in your mind.
Yeah. The
So
deeper you bury your problem, that psychedelic's gonna dig it right back up for you.
yeah, and you're gonna have to deal with it during the trip, and that's what most people. Most people, I think that have that. Again, they haven't dealt with it, but that maybe they're new to it. Maybe they've taken a larger dose than they should have, or maybe they're new to the whole psychedelic thing and they're not aware. They think it's all going to be colors and love, and sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not, and you have to be ready to deal with it when it's not. So
I've actually shied away from that altogether unless I have a real life problem, and that's the only time I'm really gonna dive into that kind of stuff, because it showed me that this isn't time for party. This is time for reflection and growing.
mm-hmm.
That's just personally my views.
I mean, look, I like that feeling of like a little bit of a paranoia, or like got to get your stuff together, like I because it does make you feel like, oh, I have to tweak a couple things here. And if you get too you get too stuck in like a rut, or you get too complacent with where you're at in life, sometimes it mixes it up for you there. So they concluded that frightening psychedelic experiences are common, and those experiences can be transformed into insightful and beneficial experiences through storytelling. Another thought I had recently was that maybe it can be terrible. We talked about this last time. Sometimes when you take a large dose of psychedelics, it's like, oh, what did I just do? It's like almost most times I've taken it, I get that like almost like instant regret. But it's not like, oh, I'm going to freak out about it. It's just like, and then it comes on and you're all good. And then, but you get what I'm saying. Like it's that initial, like coming up anxiety kind of a feeling. But then once you get in there, it feels like home to me. So that's my personal experience with it. But, those transformative experiences, that being like hyper aware or being a little scared, again, that's normal. And I think that that's probably one of the aspects that is so transformative. Because if you're stuck in your day-to-day consciousness, day after day after day for however long, sometimes just that mixing it up or being in touch with something bigger than yourself, does help you get to the next level or helps you reflect and figure things out.
Yeah, I like what you said.
Oh, I'm glad you approved.
Maury approved.
And again, people that, when it's Maurice and I, he talks. I don't tell him not to talk. I don't tell him to talk. Somebody commented about, why doesn't Maurice talk more? He does whatever he wants. There's plenty of times where I pause and let him try, whatever.
Well, if anyone that's used Skype, they know, like, when you have three people talking, first of all, when you talk over somebody, it's going to highlight one person over the other. So if we're having a guest, I like to let these people be highlighted, and I'm not going to try and step on anyone's toes. You know what I'm saying? Me and you kind of have a flow. I'll say a comment, and you'll say something. We can go back and forth. But when we have someone on, especially a stranger, right, sometimes we'll have guests that have been on before. We kind of can get back into the flow. But
there's a rapport there.
Absolutely.
And we might make a shirt at some point that says let Maurice talk. So
let him talk. Yeah.
Okay, so this one's interesting. So these are two compounds that I'm familiar with, psilocybin and DXM. I don't even know. It's like dextromorphine, something like that. It's the compound that's found, people robotrip, or I think it's found in a lot of cough medicine. I don't know if it still is or not, but I had some crazy experiences that we've talked about on past Trip Report. I think it was Trip Report part 2 or 3. I forget, but we talked about it before. So this study was talking, or the scientists behind this were Teresa Carbonaro, Matthew Johnson, and Roland Griffiths. Matthew Johnson was just on Lex Friedman's podcast. So if you have not checked that out, go check that out. That's a great episode. Matthew Johnson's a really intelligent guy, and I like a lot of what he had to say on the subject. So, I mean, as far as scientists go, a lot of scientists aren't going to take big leaps with what they're saying, but, you can tell if somebody's cool or not.
And those are the ones that do are going to be the ones that stand the test of time. If you look back, the Teslas, the Einsteins, these are the guys that push the envelope. And
I'm not even talking about, I'm talking about specifically psychedelic scientists. Like these people study, like that guy studies psychedelics at Johns Hopkins.
Uh-huh.
I get what you're saying. Like it's a visionary thing that, other scientists in other fields have used, but I'm saying specifically, in the hard sciences, whether it be psychopharmacology or, whatever, biology or whatever, there's a lot of empirical research going, so you'll see less of these jumps, but I think that he seems like a pretty interesting guy. Sounds like he's pretty creative. So yeah, go check that episode out with Lex Friedman. So they recently ran a study at the Center for Psychedelic Consciousness at Johns Hopkins University, School of Medicine Center for Psychedelic Consciousness. I think that's a repeat, but whatever.
Where's the editor?
It's me, and I don't care. The study wanted to look into how and why psilocybin has been so popular and used for spiritual purposes for centuries. The National Institute on Drug Abuse does not consider psilocybin to be an addictive substance. I think anybody that's experienced psilocybin would agree with that. You don't come down and then go, oh, I can't wait to do that tomorrow or the next day or again and right away. It's something that once you do it, if you do it properly, you don't want to do it again for a while. You want to do real work on your life. You want to get your stuff together. So,
yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, okay. It was a double-blind study. There were 20 healthy participants with a history of psychedelic use that were given doses of psilocybin dextromethorphan, I believe that's how you pronounce it, DXM, and a placebo during 5 experiment sessions. Subjects were given the doses in a living room-like environment while they relaxed and listened to music. Most of the participants wanted to take the psilocybin again at some point, while only a quarter of the participants wanted to take DXM again. Again, somebody that's done both of these. DXM is not that great. It does not. It's an experience for sure. It's not something that I would ever tell anybody or recommend it or anything like that. It's very weird, very repeat, very robotic.
Yeah.
I
witnessed it firsthand.
Yeah, there's some hyperspace action going on. It's not my favorite thing. If it works for other people, cool. But I mean, we know some people that I think even what I mentioned, but maybe Pi was getting into it pretty deep at some point. Our buddy Pi. But yeah, I mean, have you ever? I don't remember. Oh,
No, I've never done it.
You just watched.
I watched it firsthand.
Yeah.
Like a robotic movie.
And the mistake was putting on Requiem for a Dream and like Spun and all these like messed up movies. That was the mistake.
Well, that's always a mistake.
But yeah.
Great films, but
yeah, I'm good. Once you see that once, you don't need to see it again.
I've seen Requiem probably 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, you're a nutball.
It's pretty cool.
So yeah, so again, I'm gonna put all these articles down below the video after we're done. Okay. All right. This is an interesting one. This is part archaeological, part psychedelic. Datura and cave art found in California. So there's a Native American site found in California. I forget exactly where. Maybe I wrote it down there, but they found in a study published Monday. This was a while ago. I typed this up a while ago. So in the journal Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences, archaeologists, researchers have found physical evidence of Datura use in a site called Pinwheel Cave. The cave site is part of California's San Emigdio Mountains. So this Pinwheel Cave, it has a painting of a rotating spiral unraveling from like a center point. And there was previous speculation that maybe this had been connected to like shamanic rituals. I even read something that maybe something cosmological, almost like how you see these spiral type galaxy stuff on, other sites and stuff like that. But on the ceiling, they also found, I'll go to this part first because this is more. The researchers now suggest that the art, that pinwheel, is actually a representation of the Datura flower, which is a psychedelic flower found in the area. So it wasn't a spiral galaxy or anything like that. It was actually, if you look at the top view of a Datura flower, it looked exactly like it. Like you can, if you go to the link after we're done that I'm going to put down there, you'll see that side by side, they look very similar. Mm-hmm. And they found Datura fibers stuffed in the holes in the ceiling. The team then used 3D digital microscopy to determine that there were bite marks and fibers, proving that their quids, these chewing bundles, some of the bundles were dated to pre-Columbian dates around 1523 AD.
Wow.
They also did a chemical analysis to look for scopolamine and tropine, which are active compounds in Datura. So those are tropanes is like found in Datura, henbane. They're these alkaloids that, if you've read Brian Marescu's new book, The Immortality Key, he talks a lot about spiked wine and tropanes and that kind of thing because they're pretty prevalent around the world. And different plants have these different alkaloids in them. Scopolamine, I think that's what they use for motion sickness. I don't think they give you a large dose. But I don't know about atropine. I have never. I know. Yeah, I don't know much about atropine, but yeah, these tropanes are usually associated with like nightshades.
Okay.
What which Maurice can't have because of his psoriasis.
I'm not supposed to, but I've been drinking. I'm eating everything and anything right now. I need to get back on that.
This guy's call him Patch Adams. This is the first example of psychedelics or entheogens being found at a at an ancient cave art site. So there's obviously I think there's Salva Pasalacqua in Spain. There's a cave where there's mushrooms that are clearly psilocybe mushrooms. I think there's another cave art site in Algeria, like the oldest one, I believe. And what they these sites though, those with the mushroom murals and stuff like that, they've obviously never found any actual psychedelic mushroom. I mean, that stuff's super biodegradable. I'd be shocked. It'd have to be preserved in something, I think. All like 7,000 years or 6,000 years, so that stuff's not gonna hang around for a while. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Again, I know also we had Matthew Palomari on, and he was talking about ayahuasca, and he was saying some people actually, or some shamans, or curandero, whatever, mix in Datura into the batch. He said, I forget what did he say? He said he would never do it again. It was an interesting experience, but it wasn't like pleasant. So, and actually most people that experience tropanes that I've seen don't have amazing things to say about it. So
yeah, I think I'm gonna go with their words and stay away.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe they'll find doing all these tests and research, they'll find that maybe there's a threshold, or they'll know more about the dosages or something like that. So this was an article, I think this one was in Vice, about Brian Morescu's book, The Immortality Key, which I just brought up, that early Christians drank spiked wine. He went looking for hard evidence of spiked psychoactive wine from ancient Greece and the mystery traditions, and he found it. And obviously the mystery traditions influenced early Christianity, because you go from Plato and Gnosis and Gnosticos, and then you start getting into the influences on Neoplatonism, which led eventually to Christianity. You've got a lot of that metaphysics transferring over. In ancient Greece, wine was referred to as pharmakon, or drug. It was normal for them to spike the wine with herbs, plants, and other psychoactive compounds. Dioscorides, who was an author of the ancient pharmacopoeia book Materia Medica, lived during the time the Gospels were written in around the 1st century AD. In Brian's book, he discusses a find. So this is interesting. Yeah, I read this part in the book. This is also in the article. There's a find from Pompeii dated to the time of the eruption of Vesuvius in 79 AD. And in 1996, 7 large vessels were found with a thick organic deposit at the bottom of each, and the yellow foamy matrix from one of the vessels in particular contains fascinating stuff. The archaeologist Marina Ciaraldi, I believe is how you pronounce that, Ciaraldi, found over 50 nightshades. The nightshade plants contain tropane alkaloids known for their hallucinogenic effects. Again, we just discussed tropanes. This included scopolamine, which was known as the devil's breath. The grape remains found in the sample also suggest the mixture was steeped in wine. She also found lizard bones in there. So you got to get those lizard bones in there.
Mix it all up and see what.
Well, you wonder, did a lizard get in there? I mean, where are they getting? Is there that? I don't know that much. I've never been to Pompeii. Is there lizards around there?
I'm sure.
Look it up, young Jamie. Get to work. Yeah, but that's interesting. And obviously, if you don't know about Pompeii, you should look into it. It's pretty sweet. And I know we've just recently turned a couple people onto it. If you haven't seen Live from Pompeii, Pink Floyd, you need to check that out because it's the best Pink Floyd there is. It's weird, you know. Turn the lights down low, get a little weird. Turn on Live from Pompeii.
And get even weirder.
Get even weirder. That used to be a treat for us, remember?
Oh, I love that.
Just getting blown out and watching it, being like, this is so weird. And even like the videography or the, you know, like the way that they shoot like the back of the amps that look like they're glistening with like diamonds and stuff, like all those old Fender amps and stuff. It's crazy. Yeah,
it's also interspersed with backstage clips of them making Dark Side of the Moon, which is super interesting too. So go out and check that out. There's a wall lizard in the wall. Yeah, it's in Pompeii.
That's what I was wondering, because maybe some of these lizards just snuck into the vessel, got a real high, and died.
Yeah, well, it's funny because once you, like, I was in Florida the other day and I wasn't like looking, and then all of a sudden I saw one lizard, then I started paying attention, and then you just start seeing them all over the place.
Martin joined us from the Alchemical Mind, and he just wrote, lizard bones aren't surprising. There's a lot of rituals involving psychedelics around the world that involve animals, particularly mixing sheep or goat blood. And okay, so what about lizards, Martin?
Yeah.
Okay, we're not talking about sheeps or goats. We're talking about lizards. All right. Okay, so this, I just saw Rick Dublin tweet this earlier about the MAPS MDMA trials. MAPS founder Rick, is it Dublin, I think. PhD just announced on Twitter that the first two phase 3 studies of MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD were statistically significant, and it is considered a successful phase 3 study. They negotiated with the FDA to end the study with 90 participants instead of the 100 that they were going for, because obviously the current state of the world. And the study took place at 15 sites. 2 were in Canada, 2 were in Israel, and 11 were in the United States. The Israel thing's interesting. I actually, I thought it was just the U.S. and Canada, but that's kind of interesting. They seem to be pretty progressive with this stuff too. Hopefully,
yeah, they do a ton of cannabis research there.
Do they?
Yeah.
They double checked and went through all the data carefully, since, you know, it's a rigorous process. They're dealing with the FDA, the DEA, you know, they're dealing with all these different agencies to try and obviously jump through the hoops to do all this, you know, amazing research that's actually shown to help people, especially with PTSD. You know, you got all these soldiers with PTSD. You know, people have traumatic experiences, and again, I'm not saying people should do these, you know, compounds or shouldn't or anything like that. I think that if you have as many options on the table, I think that's the best policy, because we're all different. We all have different neuroses. We all have different anxiety, depression. We have all different sorts of disorders. So I think it's good to have as many options out there as possible. I mean, maybe a combination of 2, 1, you know, or whatever. I think that, again, more options, the better.
Absolutely. The more tools you have in your toolbox, the more stuff you can start getting fixed.
Right. So, okay. This was just, so the 5-MeO movie just came out, I think, recently. I haven't checked it out yet. I'm going to check that out. And also Fantastic Fungi. I've been meaning to watch it. I haven't watched it yet, but check those 2 new psychedelic related documentaries out, and we're probably going to do some reviews on them. But either way, again, they're worth checking
Absolutely.
out. Okay. So I think this is a new one, this article. DMT research gives hope to stroke victims. So a new research study shows DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, reduces the cellular stress caused by strokes. So I guess it also speeds up the recovery time in rats. These findings show potential for more research with DMT in association with neurological disorders. So, you know, in terms of, you know, DMT, you know, studies and stuff like that, obviously, when you look at the mind, you know, they know that it's produced in very low amounts, but I don't think they've ever been able. I mean, I've read all the studies, the recent U of M study, which is that one's interesting because they induce mice into cardiac arrest, and they found levels of DMT not just in the pineal gland, but in the entire brain, or the samples that they took. And we talked about that a while back when we had Dr. Rick Strassman on, because obviously he did a ton of research with DMT, and he's probably most famous for that. But, we went back and forth with him about that. That's actually still a good episode. You can go back and check that out. I don't know what number it is, but probably did it 5 or 6 months ago. So the 5-HT2A serotonin receptors are the receptors that most traditional psychedelics, including DMT, play off of. So recently, DMT has been found to bind to the sigma-1 receptor, or the SIG-1R receptor. Sigma-1 receptors regulate the response of the neurocells to stressors. Cells can become I don't even know what I put there, but due to the lack of so cells become stressed. Like these cells that they're talking about when people have strokes, they become stressed because of a lack of oxygen and other nutrients. So DMT has been found to actually reduce that stress. So after it's been stressed, it's been shown to reduce that stress afterwards. More research obviously needs to be done. They said specifically on the motor function afterwards, because there was only one motor function performed, I believe, in the rats or the mice in the study.
So I think they need to come up with some way to do, like, how people can microdose psilocybin.
Yeah.
They need to have that for DMT.
Well, I mean, so what do you do then? Do you smoke a tiny amount or vape it, or do you ingest it? You take a MAO inhibitor with something containing DMT. What do you do? What's the mechanism?
I don't know.
What's the mechanism that you do that?
I don't know. Obviously, there's gonna be way more research done, but
home mycology, no, the DMT doesn't reduce stress. It reduces the stress that it's put on the cells after a stroke episode. So after somebody gets stroked out, their cells are stressed out. So the lack of the oxygen and all the stuff. So the DMT reduces the effects afterwards. Let's see here. Yeah, that's what I was saying. The MAO and the DMT, capsule. You could do that. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? Because that's a kind of an interesting one, right? Like a stroke. Like, you wouldn't think of a psychedelic having a positive effect on somebody that had a stroke. Maybe, I guess.
Well, you know that the THC or the CBD has the effect for the epilepsy and stuff. So if it can, I don't know. Yeah, strokes are different, obviously, than seizures, but if they have those properties to help with seizures, I would think that other stuff would. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm no scientist, but
really. Well, this just in: Maurice is no scientist.
Listen, the bottom line is that a lot of these drugs have beneficial properties that we just haven't even tapped into. So it's like, the FDA was calling out cannabis, saying there's no pharmaceutical properties to it. Obviously, that's a bunch of horse pucky. So who knows what the effects of LSD, DMT, MDMA, all that kind of stuff. There's got to be multiple purposes for it. I mean, we just cracked open cannabis, and now all these other chemicals are coming out that we didn't even know that were in there, and who knows what the properties are for those. So as soon as you get funding, like, cannabis is now becoming federally legal. Wait till that happens, because then the funding.
Yeah, what were those ones that we were doing? We were trying, like, THCA and like all these like weird extracts that
That's obviously still connected to the THC, which is the psychoactive.
No, I know, but
those are offshoots from the THC.
Yeah. No, I like it. Was like a clear, less, invasive kind of a thing.
Doesn't last as long.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I'm all in on this stuff, man. I mean, you know me. Let's see here. Okay. So this one's called tabernanthalog, a non-hallucinogenic analog with treatment potential. So I saw Dr. Andrew Gallimore tweet about this, and he was saying how people that are all in on the psychedelics and think that that's the solution kind of a thing, or, the actual hallucinogenic or, metaphysical experience part of it is, like people that think that that's the only thing, the only game in town, that they might have a problem with this. And I do know that there's people out there that think that way. Again, I'll just keep restating it. My philosophy is more options on the table as possible. So this one is about how ibogaine, the psychedelic alkaloid that comes from the iboga plant found in Western Africa, has an anti-addictive property has anti-addictive properties that has success with treatment-resistant drug abusers. It has also shown promise in humans and animals. People addicted to alcohol, stimulants, and opiates have had great success with it. I've heard podcasts where people have done it once or twice and then put everything down. I think that that's a good thing. The effects of ibogaine are long-lasting, and this extended neural circuitry modification is what researchers believe activates the neurotrophic factor signaling. So this is basically to break this science, talk down into layman's terms. And as somebody that has OCD, when you have one of these psychedelic experiences and you're trapped in your own mind normally, like you're trapped in your own depression, or you're trapped in your own anxiety, or you're trapped in your own addiction, just having that experience that creates some sort of neuroplasticity, and your brain becomes more malleable, and it's less, stuck in that one track or that one way of thinking or that like loop, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what it does. So if you have that, this long lasting effect, like if you have that experience for like a long time, the more time you're in there, the more malleable I would assume your brain and your neurons become. That's just my guess. But, so the reason why they created this, though, it's a safety concern surround the potential and tendency to induce cardiac arrhythmias. So researchers have engineered tabernanthalog. So I think it's tabernanthy is like the scientific name for iboga plant, but tabernanthalog is water-soluble, non-hallucinogenic, non-toxic analog of ibogaine that can be prepared in a single step, according to researchers. So again, for me personally, that having that experience on, psilocybin or whatever, in the past that I've done, having that macro dose or whatever and having that experience, for me, it is the metaphysical connection. It is that communion with something greater, or meditating in the darkness and coming out with amazing insights and ideas. It's that aspect of it is the part that helps me. Now, that's just me personally. So if somebody doesn't want to have a hallucinogenic experience and they want the effects, the positive effects, which would be, reducing their abuse of drugs or alcohol or whatever, that should be an option,
Oh yeah.
So again, the more options, the better. I'm thinking we'll see some more of that. I think that there's two parts of that. There's the part where, they're going to try and like separate these alkaloids and, create these medicines from these alkaloids and different things. And I think that that's great. I think that we just have to make sure that both are available. So the psychedelic hallucinogenic aspect for the people that need the metaphysical, like to mix it up in their mind or, something like that. And then also the non-hallucinogenic for people that don't want that experience or don't want to take the risk of whatever possible side effects that come with that, mental or physical. So, that's interesting research. We'll see what happens to that.
Well, the problem is like everybody was built up. It's like, oh, you want to get off drugs, and now I'm going to take another drug to get off the drug. But there's obviously good drugs and bad drugs, and alcohol, and some of the like the heroines and things like that.
Yeah,
those are way more. There's no production coming out of those.
Well, and what's the solution? Because you see more and more addiction out there, and obviously it's been a huge problem. We've had our buddy on the show, talking about opiates and pills and it's a big issue. I mean, we've known people that have died that we grew up with. We've known a decent amount of people that have overdosed on. So.
Yeah.
And it can be somebody that's an addict or somebody that just uses the substance, just a few times here and there. But it's you got to test your stuff too. So if you're using these substances, make sure you have a testing kit. Make sure you know what you're doing. And that even goes, like we were talking about before, to cannabis. Know where you're getting your cannabis from. Go to a dispensary. Go to somewhere where they test their stuff. You don't want any, with carts and all these things out there, you got to make sure that there's no BS in there. You don't want to, I'm telling you, you don't want to deal with that.
Well, that's why the idea of having drugs be legal is there's some good, honest movement to that thought, because then people can test things. Like if it is an addiction and it isn't a disease like alcohol or heroin or whatever, then why do we still shun it like it's not a disease? Like if heroin's a disease, then let's get this out in the front and let's help these people overcome their disease.
But that's what I'm saying is, like, there hasn't been any like breakthrough, they're passing laws to make it less stigmatized, and that's great, but at the same time, what kind of treatment, like what are the options? Like how are they going to fix this? It can't just be, oh, well, whatever, it's just how it is. Like I don't buy it. Like let's figure it out.
Right.
I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Well, you have to obviously change that. We have a close family member who's dealing with some addictions, and it's like you need to change the pattern of your life. You got to change your friends. It's a whole new structure that you have to implement. So again, if some of these psychedelics can help your brain, like you said, you get into these mind loops or whatever, you need these things to kind of untangle you, then that's so be it. But
right. No,
what's you got to weigh your options. You want to go keep doing the same thing over and over again? You get clean, you partake in life for a little while, and then all of a sudden something happens and you're back on the thing. And obviously some people are stronger than others, but at the bottom line of it all, it's still a disease. So that's why I don't understand it. It's like you're saying that cancer is a disease, right? So you can go to the doctor, you can get all kinds of treatments for this cancer.
Right.
If you have alcoholism, obviously that's legal, that you can get treated for that disease, but what's the difference between that and heroin or crack or whatever these drugs are? The funny thing is a lot of these addictions now are coming from pharmaceuticals that are being implemented by the government from the get-go. So it's like you don't want to help heal these things. I don't know, man. It's a roundabout.
Right. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, too, when you're talking about, like, you have to want, like, these people have to obviously want to get clean. Or want help, or
absolutely.
And I know there's some people that want help that just can't do it, or they can't do it yet, or whatever, and that's understandable too. But at some point, like, I know I always bring it up, but Plato and Socrates, and like Socrates, comments, a couple times about how you need like a higher calling or a higher order or something. It doesn't have to even be like a god, but let's just say God in general, not a bearded Zeus guy in the sky, but some metaphysical energy that encompasses us all, or the universe, or whatever. Having knowledge of some sort of external thing that you can kind of rely on, it takes a little bit of pressure, off of your shoulders. And I think that we're in a weird time for humanity where there is no higher thing. People, most science is reductionist materialism, and that is very depressing to know that, if you're being told there's nothing more to life than being born and working and going through day-to-day consciousness and then dying. I know that sounds terrible. That's how a lot of these scientists and evolutionary biologists, I mean, there's some cool ones out there, but that's how a lot of these people think. And if they're out there spreading this word, they're just modern day sophists, okay? Because they don't know. At the end of the day, they don't know. We haven't landed another person on another planet, and even in our own solar system. So to say that they understand the secrets to the universe blows my mind when I hear like Brian Cox, your favorite person.
Don't even say his name.
Or like Richard Dawkins pretend like they know everything. Like, bro, no, you don't. Richard Dawkins even admitted he's had the opportunity to take psychedelics and he's not going to do it, and he doesn't care, and he doesn't. But it's like that would blow your mind. That might even change your views on the universe. But don't try it, because it might have a positive impact on you. I don't know.
Well, it's going. We're having a shift in thoughts coming soon, so everything's changing in the world, but the
Yeah.
legalization of the cannabis is the first thing to go. Again, it's a lot more people that are younger and they're coming into power, and they don't see any negative to this stuff. And the whole FDA saying there is no pharmaceutical need for cannabis
Well,
is
look,
absolutely asinine.
that's why we talk about metaphysics and metaphysical things on this podcast. I believe there's more to life, but I'm also open to the idea that this is it too. But at the same time, you have enough people, you know, saying that this is it, or like pushing that agenda, that you need that balance, because this might not be it, and that could ruin somebody's life for instance, you have all these people that are like leaving religions or cults or whatever, and I don't think, if you're in some sort of abusive thing like that, or, an organization or whatever, obviously get out of there, but that doesn't mean that life isn't spiritual and there's not more to life, or, teleology or purpose, like that. Again, that's why we talk about this stuff on the show. So
Good points.
Psilocybin treatments for major depression. So I love psilocybin, and it's a fungi, right? Home mycology. It's not a drug. It's a fungi. It's a fungus amuncus.
It's a fungus.
So John Hopkins did a small study with adults with major depression. 2 doses of psilocybin were given with supportive psychotherapy, and it produced rapid and large reductions in depressive symptoms. Most participants showed improvement, and half of the study participants achieved remission through a 4-week follow-up. Again, my personal experience with psilocybin, it's amazing in the sense that it helps you reset your mind and kind of get you out of that loop. For OCD, it might break you out of that thought loop or that mind loop, and when that's the case, it's not done. It's not a silver bullet. You then need to do the CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy, and undo, the ball of yarn that you've created in your mind through all these bad thought habits. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just how it goes sometimes. So it's not like I asked for it in my life. It's just something I've had to deal with. So let's see here. Psilocybin has great results treating serious depression and anxiety disorders. Again, I have my own personal story with psilocybin. I completely forgot we have a blog, and I'll write up another one here shortly. But if you go to our website, we do have a blog where I wrote about my experience with OCD and psilocybin, and how I've used it and integrated it into my therapy and all that stuff. So,
very good stuff.
Yeah, and people are talking about, on the comments, like microdosing. Yeah, we had Adam Bramlage on. If you don't follow him, check him out at Hummingbird Medicinals on Instagram, and also he's on Facebook. I think he's got a group on Facebook called Flow State, I believe. But
he's always doing something.
Adam's a good guy. He's really into, he just did a interesting talk with James Fadiman, who, I think he's pretty much the founder of the idea of microdosing from Harvard. And they, they're going back and forth, and it's not just the psilocybin, it's lion's mane, it's reishi, there's all these different amazing mushrooms. And again, I urge people to go check out the Paul Stamets episodes on Joe Rogan as well, because those are great episodes where they go through a lot of the different, myths, and even, they talk even about, I think one of them even, Paul talks about taking, I forget what species of Amanita it is, but he has some crazy weird effects. So, but yeah, check out those, and good stuff. But that's it for the articles. But yeah, what'd you think? I mean, there's lots of cool research going on right now.
Yeah, I like it. I like all this new study going on, and like I said, it's just going to keep growing and growing.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it's all about options, whether you're into microdosing, macrodosing, you're waiting to see the research on this or that, and there's always new research coming out. And how much of it, is the placebo too? And not even just in the sense that does it have an effect on you, but, what's it doing to your mind? Could taking these substances, if you think the placebo in this way, so like whatever you're thinking about, I think about these things, it's not even just a mirror of like your issues or whatever, but it's also a mirror of like what you're into. So like if I'm studying or I'm looking up some esoteric stuff and I have a psilocybin experience, I'm going to think about that kind of, or that stuff's going to come up in different ways. And yeah, I mean, it really depends. But I think it does reflect like what you're into at the time. Similar to how people talk about like UFOs and like the UFO experience and like encounters with these things like that. It's similar. It's like, it's what you think about it. However you think about, what you're studying. So it gets similar to almost like mushrooms in the sense that, you take mushrooms or psilocybin and it's reflective again of that's just my experience. I think there's probably people that can attest to that, but that's just what I've experienced there.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about that in terms of it being like a psychomimetic or being reflective of not just your moods, anxieties, or neuroses or anything like that, but also like things you're into, because when we were younger, all we did was go to fish shows and, psilocybin experiences and, LSD and different things. And all I used to think about was music.
I think it just connects you to anything that you're already passionate about in the first place. But again, I'm a big proponent that whatever is within you is reflected to the outside world. So if these things are just an enhancement of your natural state, then that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I think, and people are commenting on like entities like aliens and DMT elves and psychedelic. That's what we're going to talk about when we do get Dr. David Luke back on here. We had technical difficulties earlier and we couldn't do the episode, but we're going to reschedule. But that's what I plan on talking about because he's big into that and does studies and research on that. So that'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I was looking forward to that. Unfortunately, we kind of had to switch gears, but in the live broadcasting world, you got to be able to think on a fly, baby.
And yes, is it cafe or cafe? We did talk about the Salvinorin B methoxymethyl ether earlier because I was saying I saw Dr. Andrew Gallimore tweet about it on Twitter, and we were talking about who would want to participate in that study if anybody smoked salvia. It's like super intense. It's 2-3 minutes long. I've had a handful of experiences and I can't imagine doing that for hours. So
yeah, that's the experience that I had. It wasn't even it wasn't that high of a concentrate, but I felt like everybody was against me and I laughed hysterically.
I just remember being like this like fractal falling pit, a couple times falling. I fell a couple times. I think one time I was even sitting and I still fell.
Chew on that, folks.
And yeah, it's just like the fractal repeat land. I would actually say that maybe that there's some crossover with the DXM in the sense of that, like the experience I had. Maybe that was just anecdotal in the sense that maybe obviously I have OCD, so maybe that was part of it, like maybe that played into it. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. These things are so weird. You don't know other people's mindsets or like what, how they think or the way they think. So it's really hard to grasp how other people are experiencing these compounds.
Yeah, you never know how someone's going to react to it. That's why we can't be like, this is perfect for you or this is perfect for them. And everybody, you just got to kind of do your own due diligence and find out what works for you.
I mean, if you were to try a new psychedelic that you've never done before, what would you do?
Man, I don't know. I'm
like
not...
knowing what we've done all the episodes. We've talked to a lot of scientists and doctors. We've talked to Rick Strassman. We've talked to Gallimore.
Something I haven't done before.
Yeah.
I don't know. The DMT thing, the smoking, because there's no hangover and it's not gonna wreck my day, if you will. I don't know. I'm past that kind of stuff. Like I don't want to be stuck in something for hours.
Yeah.
Unless I absolutely need to be. So that's why I would probably gravitate towards something that's more of a faster up and down and get in and out. But I don't know.
Trip
I'm
to
glad
know. I want to put Trip to Nowhere. You just asked about studies for terminal cancer. They're doing that in Canada right now. Trip to Nowhere. So look into the Canadian studies. I don't know if it's possible to get in that for your friend's mom, but that's something to look into. Yeah, I think that I don't know what I would try. I would maybe. I mean, we've talked about it. I would try DMT. I'm not going to go looking for it, but if it finds me, I'm down.
And it just very might well.
If this podcast blows up, I might be forced to at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think what else I haven't done. Maybe iboga. I don't know.
Well, I get into these weird states where it's like, hey, if I'm doing well, then I really don't want to tamper with anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've stopped smoking cannabis and stuff like that. I'm in a pretty good state right now. So it's like if I'm good where I am, that's why.
Yeah, how crazy that you smoke your whole life, and now that it's federal or it's
I don't like doing stuff.
Now it's recreational, legal in your state, and you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna do it now.
Yeah,
I'm the weed hipster.
Right. If I don't have to hide under a bridge, I'm not gonna do it then.
Oh, it's legal here? Oh yeah, I don't want to do it anymore.
Not
Thanks.
cool, bro. That's not cool. No, again, it's just like I said. If I'm happy how I am, then why microdose? Why take my macro? Why do anything? Why not live in the present and enjoy what's going on here? I'm sure the downs will come again, and I'll have to go back to the drawing board. But it's all about building up these tools when you know that something's coming, because life's an up and down, so you're never going to be up for the whole time. When you get back down, you'll have these tools, and you can get back into that toolbox and use them to help you get out of that rut.
And it looks like Home Mycology done 44 grams dry to psilocybin. We got a winner chicken dinner. I don't know if anybody's beaten that, but
not me.
Yeah, no, I mean the most I thought 10 was insane for me. Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy.
You think that you get to one point, like let's say you eat 20 grams, anything after that's just kind of redundant?
That's a good question. I've always thought about that too, because I've done 7 a few times, and there was a difference between 7 and 10, but it wasn't like going from 3 to 7, if that makes sense.
And we were talking about taking like MDMA and stuff like that. Actually, like, once you get to a certain like high, then when you're taking more, you're just kind of sustaining that same feeling. So it's not like when you take more and more, you're just keeping it higher and higher and higher.
Yeah,
it's like
polo. But yeah, I mean, if you get that, I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
For what?
Let's see if Home Mycology will respond. Is there a difference between, can you reach a threshold where it doesn't really make a difference anymore, Home? Like if you do, let's say 20 versus 44, like you said. I don't know. They're saying you go to different places.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Well, it is a poison, so again, we got to put a disclaimer out there that we don't advise on any of this stuff.
What are you talking about? It's poison. What are you talking about right now?
Psilocybin?
What are you talking? Yeah, I don't know.
It's a form of poison, is it not?
No.
I thought that was what's going on, is you're blocking different things off in your mind.
No. It's again, if you listen to the episode we just did, the psilocybin gets broken down in your gut into psilocin, okay? And then it plays off of most of your serotonin's in your gut. So it plays off of your 5-HT2A receptors. So it's like an agonist. It's just like working off of, you have receptors. It's hard to explain. Okay, so like most people that have anxiety or depression issues, they're given like an SSRI, or they're given something that like regulates your serotonin. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what this is doing is it's just like playing off of that. Like these mimic those receptors that are found in your body, but they're different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that, but there's no lethal dose of psilocybin.
I just read it's one of the safest. Look it up. I don't think I think it's probably astronomical.
Wow, well, that's definitely something that's
you're wrong, and I'll call you out, bro.
Well, again, I've never claimed to be right, and that everybody knows that I'm no scientist. But when you're growing up, everybody tells you that These things are.
Those are urban legends that you heard when you were 15 years old. We've done how many episodes on this now? I'm going to get mad. I'm going to get real mad right now.
Well, I'm going to go right to the source here. Erowid.
Yeah, they'll tell you too. Erowid's got a good threshold and dosage graph thing there.
So I'll go into effects.
I got to go back on Erowid. I haven't been on in a while. We used to use that. That used to be the main resource. I think even LSD, it's like an insane amount of LSD that you have to take too. It's not like that urban legend that I'm not going to name it, but our science teacher said where the guy was running and he started to sweat and he had a sheet in his, so I don't think that that's the case. Well, yeah, people are saying many pounds before it becomes, an issue.
All right.
I will still look it up though, because I am interested in what it has to say. I mean, it's the same thing with cannabis. So, like you have to eat like blocks of hash.
That's almost impossible, right?
But you can die from water. That lady that died,
True.
That contest to win her son like a Wii or an Xbox or something. She died drinking like jugs and gallons of water. So,
right.
I mean, you got to be careful to not to overdo everything. Yeah, people are saying, you can like pass out and not remember it. Of course. Somebody's saying Salvia, you black out at highest dose. You know what's interesting? Has anybody here that's listening, have any of you tried Blue Lotus? Because the active alkaloid and the aporphine. If anybody's tried that, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Because there's lots of Blue Lotus imagery found in ancient Egypt and hieroglyphs.
It says out of more than 1,200 or 12,000 users who took psilocybin, only 0.2% reported emergency medical treatment. That rate is 5 times lower.
Yeah, man, you listen to that
MDMA.
Eminem song one too many times, and
well, it's just saying that it's so much. Say it's 5 times safer than MDMA, LSD, and obviously cocaine.
Yeah, because I think MDMA is that like a great watch that episode that I was talking about. I was telling you about with Lex Friedman and Johnson, whatever is it Andrew Johnson? I forget. Anyways, because they talk about that, how like MDMA is kind of a gray area in the sense that if you have like heart issues or something, it might not be the best if you overdo the dosage.
Right.
So, I mean, phenethylamines, that can't be great for your heart at certain,
Mm-hmm.
So,
well,
but yeah, I mean, it's so that's what Erowid said. It didn't give.
Erowid said really nothing about it. Then I just typed in, "Or is it lethal to take psilocybin mushrooms?" And
you type it into Erowid, and they're like, "Are you
slaps you in the face.
kidding? Are you fucking kidding me? You're asking this question?"
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, same thing with I think LSD is somewhat, same boat with that. I think that obviously LSD can be more potent and it's a little bit more heady. Maybe.
It's more detrimental to your actual sanity, I would think.
Well, again, we've talked about that. I mean, there's obviously. Hamilton Morris always talks about that experience he had with some I don't even know what it was. I think it was a psilocybin derivative or something like that. And one of his friends who might have already had mental health issues had like a psychotic break. So like a very small amount of people who may be on the cusp of having some psychotic break, or maybe they have a history of like schizophrenia, or, it's in their genetics or something like that, but it's not a large amount.
Yeah, it's just going to induce kind of what's already inside of you anyway.
Right. You got to be careful with anything. And anytime you do anything that's going to alter your mind like that, you have to be prepared. And if you have any questions, definitely talk to a doctor before you do anything crazy. So.
Beautiful.
But, yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. We're going to try and get some more episodes in here before the old Xmas, but...
I'm sure we'll get 1 or 2 for sure.
Yeah, we have a couple guests, and again, we're going to try and reschedule that Dr. David Luke episode, and I have a bunch of, cool stuff and guests coming on for after Christmas, and should be a great year coming up in terms of the podcast, at least. I mean, the rest of the world, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I think everybody's ready to get through this year. I know I've had my ups and downs, but it's turning around for the positive, and we're just shooting out love and gratitude and all those positive vibes to all our listeners. We appreciate you guys. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe.
We love you. We love you all. Everybody that supports the show. You know, shout out Home Mycology and Alchemical Mind, Martin and Sandy. We know you're out there somewhere. And you know, everybody listening right now. You know, we love you, and all of our patrons, we love you. Again, if you haven't checked us out on Discord, I would like our Discord to be a little bit more active. It's been kind of lame, but I think we just need more people in there, so that'll eventually come with time. But yeah, if you want to chat, and also with the Patreon, what we're going to do is fan episodes. So if you want to talk with us, you know, and do an episode with us, I want to start doing stuff where we talk with our, you know, listeners and our fans, and have a back and forth, and then upload it as an actual episode too. So I think that'll be kind of cool.
Yeah, we did a Discord fan conversation with a couple of people. It went real well.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't put it out there, but we'll put the next one out there. And then also, too, we're going to start doing the secret episode thing. I've got some cool ideas in mind, experiments and different things where, again, if you're in the secret escapee tier, which I believe is $10 a month, you're going to get some cool shit coming up. I'm just going to say that. There's going to be some outside-the-box podcast shit that I've never seen. So, and that's brought to you by psilocybin. Okay, folks?
Ladies and gentlemen.
So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. But again, we love everybody. We're going to do some more here towards the end of the year. And then, yeah, we've been doing this for about 3 years now. It doesn't feel like that long. And,
no, it's crazy to think back on some of these episodes. It's like you're fully encased in the episode, and then when you think back on, you know, episode 50 or something, you're like, wow, that seems so long ago.
Oh, I go back and I'll like just turn on like an old one, like one of the first. I'll cringe. I'll be like, I can't believe I thought that. I can't believe I said that. But that's good.
That's a good learning experience.
Yeah,
and growth.
But I think it's cool to also go look back and be like, look how much I've learned since then. You know, like my curiosity's taken me down this path where I know that was wrong, you know, or I know that I figured this out since then. So
yeah, like the first episode we had Tom Lane on. I mean, there's so much good information out there. I mean, you might have had different views or this and that, but it's still good to go back on these old episodes and revisit them. They say the mind, like when you read a book, you only really retain 20% of it. I know you have more of a good memory and things like that, but I almost have to go back and watch the episodes a couple times just to retain all the information that's being spewed.
Right. You know, maybe I was thinking too, you know, maybe even doing some psychedelic experiments too for the secret episodes. That might be kind of cool. Might get weird. I don't know how interesting it'll be to listen to, but
might be a dark room and just some talking. Or we could recreate the acid tests.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think, ladies and gentlemen.
The electric acid test. We should. You know what I was thinking too is what if we played a little show for people as a secret episode too? Since we're both musicians,
that'd be phenomenal. I've been getting my chops up. We could get a whole band going.
Yeah, do a little jam session for people.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if people love. I don't know. I mean, I know we do have people that like and love Fish and Grateful Dead and jam bands and stuff. But we've created some interesting original music in the past. We could play some of our old songs.
Home Mycology is ready to mix up.
Let's do it.
Let's get crazy.
Let's do it. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. I don't know. I might either have to get an acoustic guitar, or maybe I can plug my electric setup into my interface and do it that way. I don't know if you can have two things running through this program at once. I'll have to try that. So,
sounds good. Lots of good stuff in the work. 2021, we're going to be coming at you.
Yeah, we will.
Are you staying in Chi-Town for the holidays?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
Probably the smart move.
Staying safe, staying chill.
Yes, sir.
There's just no reason. I mean, it's the holidays, you know.
Well, you got your own family. You're starting up your own traditions.
Yeah, that. I mean, well, my wife and I did. We took I sent you the picture. We did our own Thanksgiving. We took this thing over the top.
Smorgasbord.
It was a real smorgasbord. I'm talking, roast chicken. We got sweet mashed potatoes. We've got regular mashed potatoes. We've got Hawaiian rolls. We've got
I'm not even that big of a fan of the turkey. I had a
homemade apple pie.
Yeah, I like I had a friend bring me over prime rib. Now that's how you do a Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, I forgot too. These are the shirts. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're right there. It's right there for us.
So we do have shirts available. If you're interested, send me an email. We'll figure it out. We might do something on our Patreon too for people where you accumulate, I think, a couple months and you'll get, like a shirt or a mug.
Yeah, we could do some giveaways or something. If anybody has any ideas, leave a comment below. We're always interested in that.
Yeah, for sure.
We're just going to be building this community when we got Indra's Web, if you want to pop up that little decal there. And
yeah, I forgot. Here. Yeah, this is going to be going live soon. Indra's Web. I know I keep saying that, but it really is. I've just... I was waiting until things died down in the media. It seems like it has, or at least as much as it's going to for the foreseeable future. So we're going to do this thing, and maybe it'll actually make a dent in this crazy world that we live in today. So more people talking about philosophy and rational discourse, and just get people, thinking, and get people like wanting to learn how to think and look things up and do research and not just hear one thing and repeat it, or get in fights with people, via the Dunning-Kruger effect. So,
well, yeah, one of the best books I read was The Fall of the Human Intellect. That people just aren't using their intellect anymore. It's a difference between intelligence and intellect.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going off like instinct too. They're reverting back to an instinct, but it's not the good instinct like running away from a bear that's chasing you. It's like the instinct like, I'm going to click on this button, or I'm going to talk shit to this person.
Herd mentality.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to talk shit to this person, or, They reverted back to some form of, tribalism, or again, it could be psychological stuff too, narcissism and stuff. So that's why I think that all those studies that we just talked about it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So
yeah, we need the great dosing.
Mm-hmm.
2021, the year of the great dosing, and everything turned around.
It's called the mushroomerite. It's a meteorite. It's a mushroom, and this thing just lands in the spore. Everybody inhales the spores, and we're all good.
Yeah, remember that game Zombies Ate My Neighbors? There was one level where the spores kept growing. You had to weed whack them.
Was that on Xbox or is that like a Nintendo thing?
It was Super Nintendo. It was like they had like 50 or 60 levels. It was one of my favorite games.
I want to get one of those emulators and play some old games. That's what I want to do. I forgot.
I have the mini SCN or the mini Super Nintendo thing. It's pretty sweet. It's got Donkey Kong Country, Mario World, a bunch of games.
Oh, dude, I love Donkey Kong Country.
I love it.
I love Mario World too.
Yeah, the Mario World, that was probably the best Mario until the Wii came. Is it not? No, not the Wii. The
Nintendo 64.
Yeah, the Nintendo 64, that interactive.
Oh, that Mario Kart with all those secrets.
Oh, that's a great game too.
GoldenEye 007 classic.
And on that note, folks,
that is the first-person shooter. I think the first-person shooter that like that. I think that's where you start seeing, the Call of Duties come off of that. I think that might have been the catalyst.
Well, they had like the Wolfensteins and the Doom for the computer games.
Yeah,
but awesome.
That's different though when it's on the actual console. And the Nintendo 64 controller was more similar to like an Xbox controller than it was to like a Nintendo controller.
Yeah, I remember I rented the GoldenEye, didn't know what it was, played it, so addicted to this thing.
This idiot would always pick Oddjob, and he'd always hide in this fucking thing with the golden gun.
Yeah,
you
we had to ban Oddjob. You can't aim that low. This thing's running around at your knee level, slapping you to death.
Yeah.
But no, then I remember
I would love to play that game. I haven't played that in years.
I played it. The controls are awful. Once you're used to like the Xbox controllers, yeah, because it's an odd job, if you will. It's
all right. Well, we'll wrap it up on that. We love you. Anybody that's interested, we have all of our links and everything. Go to mindescapepodcast.com or go to our Patreon at patreon.com/mindescapepodcast. Again, we've got an hour-long episode with Randall Carlson on there, hour-long episode with Sean Cahill. We got an hour-long episode with Dr. Gregory Little on Native American mounds. We've got Laird Scranton, you know. We got a whole back catalog, too. Ones with Tom Lane and other ones with Dr. Greg. You know, we got tons of them on there, so go check that out. So,
beautiful.
All right, we love everybody. Stay safe out there, and peace.
See ya.